Fantastic. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 must-have capabilities of a modern scalable DAM or digital asset management platform. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Van Dyke. I'm the Vice President of North American Sales at Senshare. I've been with Senshare a little over 5.5 years. And, Senshare, if you aren't aware of it, is a very enterprise level scalable platform that has DAM capabilities and beyond. We're excited to share some of this with you today, and I've invited a guest to join us today, Chris Lehman from one of our premier partners, mSphere Plus, who works a ton on different projects, can provide a lot of different insight. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group?
Thanks, Josh. Happy to be here again. Always excited to present with you. So I've been working in the DAM industry for over 10 years now and run the content management practice at mSphere. So it includes DAM, PIM, CMS, all those fun different acronyms, all fall underneath me. So we are a platinum partner, as Josh mentioned, with Senshare. We also partner with other technologies across DAM, marketing financial management, and marketing work management. So mSphere is a little different in our approach as we focus on 3 different areas across marketing. First is our agnostic advisory services, where we can come in and do current system assessments or help you with system selection. We also focus on the solutions that we work with. So we want to make sure that we do implementation, but also work beyond that for managed services and to make sure that you're always up to speed and getting all of your needs met with the system. And then we also can focus on your users with training and making sure that we push that user adoption. So from go live and beyond, we want to make sure that the users are in there working on that system as well.
Perfect. So what are we covering today? First off, we're going to talk about the why behind why you need a modern DAM, how to determine, your needs around that. Then those 5 must-have capabilities of a modern DAM, and then some key takeaways as we wrap it up. So why don't we go ahead and dive into this first topic around the why. When we start to look at the why you need a modern DAM, there's kind of 3 things that come to mind. And the first thing I start to think about in this analogy is really that student path versus a master path. So when you're going ahead and procuring a platform and you're having that DAM maturity, what are the things that we're looking for? So first off, I think of you have some known knowns, right? So hey, I need to solve these things. These are some pesky problems I have. These are some challenges we're facing. We really need to solve them. That's kind of very student level path. And the next level on that student level to master path is your known unknowns. In other words, you have some known knowns, but you also have some things you're like, we could probably do this in a year. Could probably do this in a year or two. These are some departments we might want to bring in, which may have these types of needs. We aren't exactly sure of them, but we have some known unknowns. And then a true master path really understands as well that there are unknown unknowns and that we need to be able to solve for those unknown things. And you might be saying, Josh, how do I solve for an unknown unknown? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the webinar today. One of the things that we see often is, looking at kind of these costs and risks of replacing your dam. So you may be looking to procure your first dam. You may be looking at your second dam or third dam even. And there's a cost in every time that you do that, and there's a risk associated with it. And what we see oftentimes is when people select a very lightweight point solution and they outgrow it in about 2 years, they have all these additional costs like additional procurement time and effort and legal resources reviewing contracts. They got to do reintegrations. They got to take their new dam and integrate it to everything again. They got to pay for another implementation. They got to migrate assets over again, and that costs time and money and effort. And Chris, you see things on the project side, just beyond that as well, right?
Yeah, one of the biggest things when you start changing, or if you're going to be replacing because you picked the wrong solutions, you're really going to affect user adoption. And when you start to make a change, say you have your first dam, you're moving off of shared drives and everything. So there's this huge mind shift, and people are going to get into this system and start working. And if it's not right for them, and you're going to have to shift to another one, people aren't going to want to do that. They're going to be more likely to start utilizing their desktop again, and they're going to stop using the dam consistently because when you throw in more change, it just affects their adoption. And then you have more change management issues too. And if you don't have a full team that's really dedicated just to managing those issues, it makes it very difficult. So that's why making sure that you choose the right dam first is very important for those, especially for the end users.
Yeah, for sure. And there's these are some soft costs and some hard costs, right? So Chris and I through and tried to actually put together some numbers on the low end and the high end. So soft costs is the actual time of your team for legal, for procurement, for demos, for RFP reviews, things like that. But there's also some real hard costs as well. And so, the failure to select a modern dam will really lead to you replacing the current dam you're on within 2 to 3 years is the typical timeline. And so that costs, any savings that you had on saying, gosh, I'll pick this one because it's a little bit cheaper. It cost me 30 grand less over the course of a year. All that savings you had was wiped out in that first 3 years really easily. So let's dive in a little bit further, Chris, into how we're going to go ahead and think about this. And successful customers we see have a real defined North Star vision. And what do you see that as?
Yeah, you need to make sure that you're thinking for the future. You're not just thinking, what do I need to solve a problem now? What are we going to need over the next 3, 5, 10, or even beyond to make sure that you are choosing something that's going to meet your needs? It's those known knowns versus those known unknowns and unknown unknowns, which if you only think about what you know now, is going to be causing you that problem and you don't really have that North Star vision. But how do you actually get to figure out that North Star vision? If it was easy, everybody would be able to do it, right? So first, you need to make sure that you define a DAM oversight group. This needs to be key stakeholders from across the company, different departments, marketing, IT, design, and so on, so that everybody has the voice within there. It's also important to make sure that there is leadership oversight with this. This team is the one that's really going to be defining everything going forward, and they are the ones that are responsible for making sure that everybody gets a voice at the table. And that's the next part here, is make sure you do these stakeholder mappings and interviews. Who is important within here? Find out who's going to be part of the DAM and make sure that you're talking to everybody. There could be something down the line. Maybe there's a small little video production team that you have that you might not even know about. Make sure you're talking about them, because maybe in the future it's going to be one of those things that needs to be thought of. And if you aren't thinking of it now, it's going to lead to issues going forward. Next, do a requirements assessment and a maturity assessment. If you have a system already, you can do some maturity modeling. Where are you along the journey, the DAM journey? Are you high on certain areas, low on certain areas? Figure out where you are, because then you can see where you need to go next. And if you don't have a system yet, you can then also do a requirements assessment. What is important to you? AI versus video and so on, and those different pieces. Figure out where you are, what is really important to you today, and then also down the line. So you can say like, hey, we might not be needing PIM now, but let's see in the future, we want to make sure that we account for it going forward. Part of that too then is also what is in your current MarTech stack. Find out what you have, what could be replaced with a system that has multiple pieces. It could be a DAM and a PIM or a CMS. Maybe everything that you have is legacy, or you don't even have it, and then you can replace it all with one system. And then finally, determine your roadmap. DAM is going to be a living journey for many, many years. It's never really over. So you're going to start off and you'll start and hit major milestones and make sure that you're determining what is important for when, so that you have that to go through, because then you're going to hit your greatest needs, drive that user adoption, and then continue to get people to work directly in the system. And then everybody's going to be happy going forward. And then you have a good system that you're going to work with going down the line.
That's huge. And the companies that take time to do that, Chris, we see it. And when it's time to have demos, they get a lot more out of the demos that they're seeing, because they know exactly what they need and what they're looking for, today and in the future. And it also, not only helps with the demos, of course, it helps with a successful project, right? So let's talk about these 5 must-haves. The 5 must-haves of that modern scalable DAM. What are these differentiators behind just a lightweight system? So first one, graph database. Graph database, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is it really helps you navigate relationships and store and build relationships in context around your assets. So you can click on an asset and see everything that's been related to. And this is incredibly fast. Graph databases are. They can index things really well and really quickly, and then they can show you everywhere it's been used. And I remember I was on a webinar once, at a Henry Stewart webinar, and we actually, Teresa Wrigley was like, "What is it?" She was asked a question like, "What is it that defines like a modern scalable DAM versus a lightweight DAM?" And the first thing she said to the person was, "Well, it should be built on a graph database." And there's only a couple of platforms in the DAM world that are built on a graph database. And as mentioned, this allows you to see, hey, here's this team that worked on this. It's related to this asset's related to this product by this corporation. It was viewed by this person. It was written about in this blog. It was shared on this social media. It was shared in these different output channels. It's related back to this product data. It was approved by these compliance people, right? So really building up a tremendous amount of context around those assets. And, that context is relevant not only today, but imagine in an archive scenario in 3, 5, 7 years, when that person that was, building out that asset has left the building and their tribal knowledge went with them. You can actually have that knowledge still stay within the organization, even though the people associated with that asset have left. What does that look like in real life? So you can see an asset here. Maybe it's an article and you can see, hey, there was this media used in this article. There was this text. It was the main asset here. It was the main content of this. It was liked by these people. It was distributed to these people. We can click on more. And these are all navigatable. So you can actually click on anything within the graph and see its relationships as well, right? And so you can see all of these back-end relationships and how they create context. And maybe, hey, this article had these products in it. It had, these different planning associated with it. It was part of these campaigns, and see everything that it exists. And Chris, maybe you have a couple more here that you could talk about.
Yeah, if we take a look at like a product asset here, and really you're talking about a data-driven system too, because the graph database helps you with all this different data, but it's not just metadata, but it's also going to be relations to other pieces. So at a product here, we can see what are different cross-sellings, what is it similar to, what is it related to, what pieces make up this product too. So each one of these not only has different meanings, so it gives you that information that's with it, but you also have the ability to put metadata on that, so you can do rankings of like different cross-selling. So this is a 1 or a 2, or you can have any piece of metadata on any of these different materials as you want as well, so that it could be not just the relation, but then there's also more meaning within there. So it makes it very powerful for you to find where things are, what's related to it, and really build up all of that data that goes into, in this case, a product, but it could be with any piece within the system as well.
Yeah, I mean, a couple real world examples outside of the fact that this is cool and looks neat, I was with a client the other day, and they were like, "Hey, let me show you this asset. It's a part, and it's related." So they should show the relations. It was related to 185 products. So that part was in 185 products, and that part got updated. And so they needed to update it, and then need to relate back to, need to automate that update to the 185 products. And I said, "How did you do that in the past?" They go, "Well, we didn't, because it was too manual. So things just became out of date." Other real world examples you see all the time is logo, like brand refreshes. Hey, here's the old logo. Where does it exist? Where's everywhere it's been published? We can see that now. Now we can replace it. So things of that nature, warnings or disclaimers, content that's being used over and over, text content that is attached to a lot of different assets or collateral that's being built. And so knowing where something is and knowing every single relationship that it has. So Chris, what else do we have? 5 must-haves of the scalable modern DAM.
Yeah, next we've got automations. So we want to make sure that you can get the system to help simplify some complex or manual tasks. You want to be able to have it so that users can set these up, and it doesn't have to have over large programming on the back end. If you're familiar with the website, if this, then that, that type of thing, where like, hey, if I create this asset, then I want this to happen. So we have a couple of different examples that we have here. One of them is very simple. When you come in and you approve an asset, so we're going to mark this asset to publish. So we're going to then want to create additional renditions of this file. So you see here, the file's going out, being updated. So we see multiple different renditions of this file that was automatically generated on the back end. A lot of times this is something that somebody have to come in, open it up into Photoshop, maybe with script or manually, save those pieces and send them out. But now this is all within the DAM. It's always going to be up to date. And then these can be used to push out to your different output channels then automatically as well. Next, we're going to talk about an article. We kind of briefly discussed in the last one here with the graph database, but an article is made up, it's called a compound asset, so made up of multiple different pieces. So we can see here we have media, so all this imagery and video goes into it. We also have all these different text assets that go together so that you can have it set up for different language variants and have the right information everywhere, so you can create it once and reuse it. But with the article itself, then once you're done, you want to be able to publish this. So we can have it set up so you can just push a button and we're going to publish this, so we can choose where do we want to send this out to? Are we going out to our CMS? Are we going out to our email? Which channels are we going to? And then it automatically will take that, the article itself, add the content output channels here, and then also any related images and texts, and then have that publication date. So we just push one button. Now we've published this live out on the website or wherever we wanted to within here. So simple automations where you don't have to gather all those assets and do it manually. And then also taking an article, we can talk about print production. So something that we can do in SendShare is utilizing the web client without actually being in InDesign. We can have an InDesign document here, and we can actually publish that article into print. So just by dragging and dropping this onto a template and refreshing this is actually placing images and text and also author information. You can see all the elements on the right-hand side here that was then just placed onto this page. So this is actually not just looking in there. This is actually placed as InDesign, so you can go in there and open it up in InDesign and make additional changes, or just send this out to print right now. So this allows more automation around here, so people that don't know anything about InDesign can start doing some of the web to print or some of those different automations based off of that as well.
And that's an article, but we've also seen this. I was actually with a client about a month ago that was using this exact automation to create their data technical sheets for their products. So they would drag a product into this predefined InDesign template layout, and it would populate the whole product technical data sheet. And this is something that would take them on average an hour or two to build out. Now takes them one click in about 2 seconds. And Chris, I think you had clients that it didn't even need to do the click anymore, right? Automated the whole thing.
Yeah, working with their on their PIM setup, we had it set up so that whenever they made a change to any data point, it's going to auto-generate a PDF of all of the information that's necessary, all of their links, all of that information. So it's done one-off so that they don't have to worry about even dragging and dropping and doing that different automations. So we can set up automations to do that on the fly without even having any human intervention.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lightweight, scalable, lightweight platforms that just can't scale that way and can't do those automations at all. Let's talk a little bit about architecture and some of the scalability around an architecture for an organization that's growing or maybe adding different departments. So we want to make sure your DAM has a cloud-based architecture that allows them to actually scale and maybe can detect heavier workloads being detected. So the system can actually increase during peak times or decrease, if needed. There's a couple of things that I've seen where companies have come to us and said, "Hey, can you do this? Because we're struggling with this in our current platform." And there are things that I was like, well, I almost couldn't believe it. But here's 3 examples. So first one was just the actual number of assets. So most systems that are lightweight, they're just not set up to be able to handle a large number of assets or objects. Most of them go ahead and start to struggle with performance issues around 1 million or 2 million assets. And what happens at that point is once you drag an asset into the platform to ingest it, you'll get this spinning beach ball and it won't upload, or it'll take a very long time to upload. And then people go, well, I don't want to use this. This takes forever. And then they'll just start storing it on their Google Drive or their own desktop or whatever. And you have all sorts of data sprawl. But most platforms, the indexing on the back end, just can't handle it. So has the platform actually been tested against 10 million, 20 million, 50 million assets? I know at SendShare, we have clients with over 50 million assets in the system without performance issues. Another thing that we see is just the number of users or the distribution of the users. So as you start to expand globally, hey, it was great when everybody was in Chicago and that's where the headquarters was. But now we have people that are living all over the world, and the ones that are living here, there, or elsewhere are really having slow performance issues when they log in and try and do things. So do they have a distributed server network that can actually support these global users? And we even have users behind the China firewall. So being able to really expand globally, even in awkward situations. And another one that we see a lot, another example is just the size of the assets. I had someone say to me, "Hey, Josh, when we're loading an 8 gigabyte file into the system, it's erroring out. It's not letting us do it, or it takes too long and it doesn't upload and whatnot." And that seems like a really simple thing, and it should be a simple thing. But some platforms put restrictions on kind of those file sizes that can be manually uploaded. not uploaded in a funny workaround way and during an ingest process in the front end, but just users uploading it. And as files become bigger, like big raw files, or we see things being shot in 4K, 6K, 8K, those files are only going to get bigger. So making sure you have architecture that's really scalable. Chris, what else are we seeing here in terms of modern scalable DAMs?
Well, the next one is API. Sorry, API maturity. This is one of my favorites. I could talk about this one all day long.
That's right.
But everybody's going to say they have an API. Everybody can connect something, but you want to make sure that the API is actually very mature. You have good documentation. You have examples. You're able to go in there and do more on your own. Some of the different systems, especially the lesser systems, not only will they limit what you can do to what they've connected to already, but they could also then throttle you. So they could make it so that you can only do so many calls per minute or only take so much volume through that. So you want to make sure that you aren't limited within there too, because a connection that is every once in a while updating something and not in real time isn't really what you need. You need to make sure that you're getting that data back and forth and having your system really be the hub for all of your asset management and being able to send out data and get that information back in as well.
And we see that a lot, right, Chris, where companies will throttle you if you are trying to connect over and over again. They'll either slow you down or they'll just straight up limit the number of API calls you get in a certain time period. And then that API, although it's built and took time and effort, money to build it out, is kind of worthless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of times that we see that you're limited to the, especially on the size. So like you can make the call, but if the return that's coming back is too big, you might have to make it in 3 or 4 or 5 different calls to make sure that you're getting all of the information. And that just isn't as efficient as what you'd really want to have from a system. So we have a couple of examples of API connections that we've made. So the first one here is with a major retailer that we worked with where they have their DAM as their hub. So they're working on print production and also email servicing. So they're going to pull in information from their planning system, and they're going to make a call out to their master data management to get product information and all the different pricing and all that information back into their system. Then they're going to place that into InDesign, go through review process, and this can update multiple times throughout. But then once they're done, they're able to send out those PDFs. From there, then they're also going to take those offers that were in that print production and send it off to the customer database so that they could do personalized emails. So they also send that over to the email provider, and then that all meets up, and then they send out personalized emails. What does that look like? So here we have a customer A and a customer B. So you can see that one of them has the pass, one of them doesn't have the pass, creative area is 1. All of these can change based on the information that we have about these customers in the customer database. So the customer database doesn't necessarily tie anything into the DAM, but we're going to pass the information of like, hey, here are the offers. What would customer A like compared to customer B? So you can see on the creative side, all they're doing is creating for these different areas. They're not looking at what goes next to each other or anything like that. It's all individual content so that you're able to send out these personalized emails. They went from having about 7 to 10 different versions they're doing at a time in a 12-week process to being in a 4-week process and sending out over 1,000 over multiple thousand combinations, depending on how many different products and creative areas they had, to be able to send that all out to us. So you can really get that true personalized offers going out to the end users. Next, we built a connection between Workfront and SendShare so that we're able to take information from both systems and share them. Our goal was to make it so that your product manager is going to continue to work in Workfront, and then your designers are going to work in SendShare. So we can sync tasks and projects and hour entries and all that information back and forth between the systems so that users don't have to jump from one to the next to see where a project is or to update something. Keeps users in their system of record, which is very beneficial. And we also extended it to that you can use SendShare as a place to grab assets from in Workfront. So you come in, choose from SendShare DAM, find a picture. We can get a picture of my daughter here and link that in so that users can actually not have to log into SendShare, download, upload. It's all in there, just like if you're using some of the other systems that Workfront has already tied into. So we're able to build up that tight integration so that you can use this then for proofing and then leverage all of the different benefits that you have between the two different systems.
Huge, huge, huge. Well, let's talk about the next one, open architecture. One I love talking about, but open architecture allows your team to actually build in and on top of the platform to meet their business specific needs. Platforms that are open architecture, which is different than open API. Open architecture can be flexibly extended, and continue, beyond each upgrade. So one of the things that we see a lot is organizations that were stuck in their old platform. They say, "Well, we asked the vendor, hey, we need this feature because this is what we need for the team to be able to do this thing." And the vendor goes, "Oh, that's a really cool feature. That's really neat. We can see how that'd be really valuable for you." But nobody else has ever requested that feature. That's very specific to your business. So we'll put it on the roadmap for like 2 years, maybe 3 years, never from now. Right. So, being able to have a certified partner like an mSphere in this case, or even train the staff at the organization, some of their solution developers, on how to build in and on top of the platform to create features that are really specific for their needs. And so what does that look like in real life? Well, it could be, a dashboard that's, when someone logs in, it's completely custom for that user and their needs, where they can go ahead and maybe have widgets that are really, designed for that use case and that user's roles. Chris, what are some real world examples you've seen out there?
Yeah, we get asked all the time, how can we make some changes? What can we do to this? And utilizing Center's open architecture allows us to make some additions. So standard my work lists of the tasks that are assigned to me and my team. Well, one of our clients wanted to come in and add some additional filtering to it so that they could cut it down, because they're routing all of their advertisements. They wanted to be able to say, like, okay, I only want it for this one category or in this style number, so they can type all that in. So we extended what's on there. And the best part about this, when we're doing these extensions, is that we're not stopping upgrades, or we're making sure that everything can continue to go forward, because we're just working off of the base of the Censure system itself. Here's another example for a client where they wanted to have users be able to use the detailed search that's built into the system, but they wanted to make it easier for them because they wanted to limit it or have certain things already set up. So a user can just come in using this widget and choose flower, make some other adjustments that they want, where they want to search, and then they get their information. Quick, easy, able to find things to get to their job quicker. So we're trying to simplify some of the things. And if you were going to put this out to go back to some of the different vendors, they may never add that feature into here. This is something that we can add on top of it. And then same here too, again, simplifying. We wanted to upload chapters. So we have a button that starts a wizard so that they're able to then upload new information within there. And then while they're working within there too, we built some different widgets so they can drag and drop. While they're working on a new book, they know what was in the previous edition, what's next. And we have different items so they can quickly put together their book from their chapter, and then also all their images right within the system, and make it very easy for them to work without having to go through a lot of training, or to be just to make it not complicated. Looks like, Josh, we have time for a bonus question here too.
Right on, right on. All right, bonus is the Beyond DAM. What we're seeing in the industry is, organizations and vendors wanting to add modules in that really are purpose driven and really help organizations, like a product information management module, or a content management module, or a marketing resource management module, or print production modules. And what this allows organizations to do is really solve multiple issues within their organization, simplify their MarTech stack by deprecating other systems that probably cost them quite a bit of money, and actually create a real single source of truth, where they're connecting different modules. And kind of what does that look like? We have a neat graphic where you have your omni-channel content right in the middle. So you're creating that content once, you're managing all of your, let's say your product data, your digital assets, your images, your contracts, whatever it may be. You're creating content within the platform. And you may be pulling in data from these other sources, maybe an ERP or a CRM or a BI tool, so that in the center there in your omnichannel content, people are working with the latest, always the latest and greatest in terms of content. And as those things become approved content, they can actually get pushed out to whatever channel is important to you, whether that's your website, an app, print, social, whatever it may be. So really, really huge. Let's, Chris, we kind of covered a lot of ground today in a very short amount of time. What are some of the key takeaways for our listeners today?
Yeah, first, really, it's important to have that modern DAM. Why is it important to choose a modern dam? We covered the costs that can come in if you don't. We also talked about the different paths, making sure that you're thinking about not just now, but for the future. So you have that North Star vision. Make sure that you're thinking about what could be coming down the line. Think about 6 to 10 years from now, not just about like, I have this problem today. We covered the 5 must-have capabilities of modern dams. So if you're looking for a new system, make sure those 5 are in there. And if they're not in there, or if you have a current system, you don't have them, you should start looking for a new modern dam as well. And to help, we did cover a lot of different things, but you can contact us for a list of must-ask questions to vendors. So you can cover not only just the questions that we've talked about here, but there's a lot of other areas that we discuss within there as well.
Yeah, and in those must-ask questions, it wasn't just the 5 that we covered. We actually expand upon that. And the beauty of the list of questions, if you'd like to email us for them, and Chris, maybe you can put our contact details up here, is that you will have not only the question itself, how to ask the right question, because most people don't know the right question to ask, but the why behind your asking that question. Because if you don't know the why behind your asking that question, any vendor answer will do. Any vendor will give you a sexy response, and you'll say, I guess that works, right? So knowing the importance of the why behind it and what you're looking for in that answer, and that will allow you to address today's needs, future needs, and that unknown. You'll start to think about those things that, hey, even if we had open architecture and we can build out features we don't even know we need yet, we're addressing those unknown unknowns. So please go ahead and feel free to email us for a copy of those questions. Also, if you have some interest in learning more about SendShare, Chris and I would be happy to talk to you about that. Or if you don't have maybe a need to look at SendShare right this moment, but just have some questions around dam procurement and processes and best practices, Chris would be a great person and great resource at mSphere to be able to do that. Chris, any other final thoughts before we leave our attendees today?
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk through any projects that you have for SendShare, or if you're just really starting to even have an idea of like, hey, I think we need a dam, we can help you get ready for that dam project as well too. Josh, thanks again for the time. I always appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris, and to everybody that attended today, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.